I
Now
like your
it's
background.
recording. Do you know, I use it with my logo. Oh no, other one over here. And when we do our Zoom conferences. And so I had forgotten that when Carol and I shot the Zoom conference on Friday, by Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, I was doing that. And everybody said, I love the background. And I said, oh my God, I forgot, I'll change it. And they said, no, leave it. It makes me feel, do you know, in astrology, that is literally 1/3 of the astral triangle, because that's the earth, which is our rising sign. And like, and Stephen has a rising sign in Leo, which is particularly important right now. We just came out of Leo and the sun in Leo, but you know, he's aggressive. he has an aggressive Leo portion to him, even though he's a gentle guy. He has aggressiveness. Anyway, I have you to myself for 50 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
How are you feeling, sweetheart?
I'm good. Today was a weird day, but it started off strange. I've been having asthma problems.
Oh.
I tried to go off Advair and I started Singular. And my body just didn't like it. I was still feeling a lot of asthma symptoms. I was having chest pains. I was waking up in the middle of the night with like gasping for air.
Did you have any dairy or wheat the week leading up to the asthmatic inflammation?
Not as much. I have had dairy and I have had wheat, but it's sparingly. It's not something that I'll have yogurt.
That reduces inflammation. So my little love, in the world of Ayurvedic medicine, anything with congestion in the lungs or asthma or bronchitis is a kapha imbalance. A kapha imbalance means that we know you have a lot of kapha energy, but I have a kapha imbalance in my lungs as I'm predisposed towards congestion. It means that you have to get rid of all dairy for a few days, maybe a week. And that means when you have your yogurt, you got to go to Whole Foods and get the soy coconut yogurt, which is mucho delicioso. Yeah. And find alternatives for wheat. And that means having a little bit of quinoa. Maybe that's what it means.
Okay.
Because you can't have any, zero.
Okay.
But
that makes sense.
Then, yeah. And then what happens if you have it, it resides, because kapha can't get rid of dairy. It can't get rid of wheat. It just stays because the respiratory area is slow, like the kapha energy, which we need. And especially now, we need you kapha more than ever now. Yeah. You know why? You know why you're needed?
No.
Okay. I know you're busy and you can't listen to my show or do the Zoom because it's happening during work, but we talk about the square that's happening between Saturn, the planet of correction, Pluto, the planet of death and transformation, and being magnified by Pluto. It's all in a line, but it's squaring Mars and Uranus. Mars is in its home planet of Aries, so it's fueling a lot of squared energy, which is not favorable. It's causing irritation, pitta, aggression, and vata, confusion. And across from Mars, over on the other side, is Uranus, the planet of sudden changes. So sudden changes is vata imbalance. Mars heat in sign of Aries is pitta, aggression, and it's squaring a whole bunch of transformational planets. So the energy that is coveted is yours. You have such nice kapha energy. I'm taking this off. I wear this to go to the bathroom because there's a lot of gay men here and they get crazy about their immune systems. So I want you to be so aware and appreciative for that beautiful kapha energy. But there's a price to pay, and it's a buildup of congestion, irritation. That's one of the prices to pay. So we can win. Just have to eliminate it and find alternatives for a week or two.
Sounds good.
Thanks for sharing. Tell me.
I went to the doctor this morning for the emergency. It wasn't an emergency, but I tried to find a primary care physician up here, and they're booked through October.
Ah,
So
wow.
yeah. So I went to the emergency urgent care, or that walk-in doctor, and they saw me and put me on prednisone. So I'll be on that for the next 5 days, and then back to Advair, which I hate, but at least that will regulate my asthma so I can start again.
Yeah, I don't like you doing prednisone because that's going to bring up more kapha, and it's going to hold weight, and it has a reverse effect in the long run. Can't you just wickedly change your diet immediately and then try to sidestep any of that stuff?
I
Minimize
can.
whatever the dosages were, so as you watch your symptoms abate, because you're going to
Okay.
eliminate all dairy and wheat. As they abate, you abate the drug.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, I haven't had dairy or wheat. I mean, maybe 3 days ago. It was triggered. It was really triggered during the vacation.
How? Because when you were away, you were not on your perfect diet. But Maria, that's the week or 2 week whip effect that happens with asthma. It's a week or 2 week whip effect. That's what it was. Because when I saw you guys last week, you had just finished your time with your families.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was, I didn't feel well while I was in Virginia Beach, but that was, a combination of I didn't have my Advair, I was taking a lot of Ventolin, I was eating way too much.
There you go.
Way
That
too
brings
much.
on that brings on kapha imbalance and bronchitis and asthma. So
Yeah.
now you're reacting to anything. Maria, your answers are very simple. Let me ask you a question. When you are like locked in perfect with your diet, do you still take Advair, or are you able to minimize it? No. Oh, honey. All right. Green juice, we'll do a kickstart. Green juice, bitter, horrible. I drank one today, but we'll kickstart.
Okay. Yeah. I've been thinking about that. I'll just start doing that.
Yeah, no oh man, prednisone's so bad. So bad. No, okay. No judgment. You do what you have to do. You know what to do. It's a matter of application. I get such terrible bronchitis and asthma every time I'm around my family because it's an excuse, and there's always food, and there's burger buns, and there's a yogurt in the morning is not a yogurt in the morning for you is not the same as a yogurt in the morning for me or Steven. It's very hard for you. Got to have the coconut yogurt or almond yogurt. They're yummy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had them. I should just start getting them again. I'm allergic to almonds, or at
But
least I'm like sensitive to it, but I can do.
There's a soy and there's a cashew one too.
Yeah, I'll do cashew. Yeah.
Cashew one's awesome, but I love coconut because it's cooling for me.
Okay.
For you, it's neutral, but you're very kapha love. I
Yeah.
literally kapha love. You're literally kapha love.
Yeah. Well, I will say that because I had to go to the doctors this morning, it threw Steven off. It threw me off. We got into a major fight.
Oh no! Tell me
Yeah,
what happened.
and it was just a lot of. I've been like feeling kind of resentful, not resentful, but just like I feel like I'm doing a lot as far as house chores, house things, where he comes home and just zones out. I don't get that luxury. I try to make it for myself, but I have to make dinner, and then I have to pick everything up, and then I have to start laundry, and then it's just like these lists of things. And then I wake up early to walk Ollie, and it just he was thrown off this morning, got upset because his rhythm was off because I had to take him into work because I needed the car, which led to him saying, he's fine, but he just was mean with his words. And I just blew up. And I just said, sure, you're upset with maybe your routine this morning wasn't what you wanted, but that's not fair. And then I named a ton of stuff that I had been dealing with. So,
wow. You are so cute because you probably don't ever blow up.
I mean, I sometimes do. I can get loud.
Oh, you got some pizza in you. And so I'm drawing a little something about, I wish I could color code it. Oh, I can. I'm going to color code it because this is important. Because if you see it, so the worst configuration in astrology is a square. Oh, I have to get rid. See, this is why the background doesn't work.
I can see it. I can see it. Yeah. Oh, well, now I can't see it. If you put it next to your body, I can see it.
Uh-oh. I'll find the sweet spot. There it is.
There.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm going to just take it off. I'll put it back on for a minute, but let's just go to none. Okay, just for a second. I lost you, but I think you can see it, right?
Yeah.
So this is what's never been happened before. Jupiter, and the reason why this is important is because these are the big boys. Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto are all in a line with one another, but they're squaring Mars because Mars is like the freight train, the race car that wants to go forward. But in astrology, the square is the most confusing and oppositions are the most obnoxious. So Uranus, the planet of sudden reactivity, with Mars, the planet of sudden war, are opposing each other. Guess what they do? And they're squaring Jupiter and Saturn, the planet of your correction, and Pluto, the planet of your death and transformation. Mm-hmm. So we have, these are our issues. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, there you are. I just wanted to share that with you because if you see it, you remember that Uranus is squaring also. So we can look at sudden reactions for myself, I'm sure you are too, as being something that is part of your correction process because the sudden reaction planet is squaring your correction. So it means that we know, even with Kapha, being gentle, and loving, if you sweep under the rug and sweep under the rug and sweep under the rug, that analogy is eventually the rug is overwhelming and eventually some big plume of dust comes out, and that's analogous to your reaction. How long you been holding on to the fact you're disappointed with Stephen's non-attentiveness to the household stuff?
Weeks.
At least we laugh about it, Maria. I have a question about last week, but how does he receive your disappointment about his involvement in the house?
He gets defensive. He definitely said this has nothing to do with this morning because it was a big plume of dust. It was everything just came out. Because to me, it's all intersecting. It's one reaction that causes another.
What else is there, hon? And can I maybe segue over to last week when he joined us?
Yeah.
We'll leave this question. I'm going to write it so we don't forget, so we don't allow my vata to lose our point here. But what else? He's actually turning the psychoanalysis screws on you. He's very smart, and he knows a lot about psychoanalysis. It's obvious.
Yeah.
He's already beating me to the punch, even though I'm sitting there trying to be patient. Which, what else is it with Stephen? One of the things I wanted to ask you as I look at some of the notes about what Stephen was sharing last week, were you pleased with what he shared? Do you think he held too much? Do you think he volunteered enough? How do you feel about it?
I think with any first meeting, you edit. So
Good answer. What do you feel might have been edited? It's a good answer, by the way.
I don't think and no one wants to put themselves in a bad light. You know?
And vulnerability with just a new meeting.
Yeah.
You're 100% right. We have the 3 meeting rule. Second one gets a little better. The third one's frequently you turn a corner and you realize you're in a safe place.
Yeah. I think I was very thankful, and he wants to continue with you. I think he sees the benefit.
Do you agree?
Sure.
Do you agree that if I have alone time with him, there might be that lowering? The more people are around, when somebody who is as quick-witted as he is, he quickly knows how to keep himself protected.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people around, the more protection is necessary, because nobody wants to make themselves vulnerable to the masses. That's like public speaking, and that's our greatest fear. Even those of us who are good at it.
Yeah,
So
I think
less is more. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I think I don't think he realizes how much he's holding.
Yeah.
There's not, or maybe he's just not opening it up, and he knows that we're trying to pry and get to that one thing, and he's kind of deflecting and taking us to another route. Like some of his answers, I was like, oh, well, I guess you're trying to take us this way.
That's
just because
that was my question.
I also don't think it's fair for me to, because I feel like he might be like being he knows he's not being attacked, but he knows you have a lot of information on him. So it could be that, oh, well, you talked about that with him, or you've already mentioned these things with him. It doesn't come out genuinely with, that's my only worry. But I do think that
we're going to change that. Yeah, we're going to change it to a consideration, because I don't want you worrying, but thank you for sharing that. For sure. And of course, the numbers, 2 of us with him being asked questions. It's really, whenever we do a session, whatever it is, just tell him Dr. Scott said he wants to have a little bit of time with you alone. If it's next one, that would be fine.
Next week would be great for just him, he said. So
I think that would be wonderful. I have a number of questions I want to ask him, and I've got his portion starred here. And there's some wonderful astrological stuff, though. I tell you, he gets you on an astrological level. I know you guys had a little fight today, and I want to ask you a question. All right, leave Stephen's astrological chart alone. I'll deal with that with him. What else is it with Stephen? And does Stephen represent any opportunities for you to deal with some of the stuff from childhood? The answer is always yes, because our relationships are our platform for dealing with our childhood. I answered for you. Forgive me. So
I don't think I've made that connection. I definitely see and appreciate. I think I appreciate all of the things that he brings out from my childhood. If that makes sense. Like he reminds me a lot of my dad, and I had a great childhood with my dad, except for him cheating on my mom part.
Yes, but
But
remember, there's some underlying trauma there because of what Stephen did. And I have back a visit 2 visits ago, back on July 27th. We're talking about your relationship with your father. I want you to tell me some nice things about your father that you really appreciated, and then I want to go immediately to Stephen.
yeah, my dad's very open. My dad's the type of person that he sees your vision and your dream and gets you excited and hypes you up and makes it happen.
No.
He also seeks out adventures. He brings up family history, which I really love. Knowing about my past is a big thing for me, just about the way he grew up and his family, and it's a little clue into like why I am the way I am, type of thing, or how he reacts. Like I like seeing that.
I like that.
He's very loving, very emotional, cries at the drop of a hat.
Your dad?
Mm-hmm. Cries all the time.
Do you ever look at his chart? Is he loaded with Cancer and Pisces? Because, honey, I was going to say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but but I know your chart, so I know where it's really coming. It's really genuine in you. I do too, by the way. For Pisces, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, but Dad has the emotionally available crying kind of thing that we both have is really related to Cancer and Pisces. And if we do his chart, you'll see it's in some key places like Mars or his North Node. What's his birthday, by the way?
It's May 5th. May 5th, 1955. 5555.
I don't want to do it now. But we know what we're going to find. You don't know his birth time or location where he was born.
It was in Guatemala, but I don't know. I think it was Ravinal, which is very specific. But not the
We don't
time.
know. It's okay. When you talk to your dad next time, ask him if he knows what time he was born. If he's loaded with Pisces, he's going to, and potentially Scorpio is a little bit of a crier too. The 3 water signs. Yeah. As soon as you ask him his birth time, he'll still gravitate towards it because he sounds like he has metaphysical inclinations, even with probably a Catholic background and a Guatemalan. Anyway, those were beautiful traits that you just described. Absolutely beautiful. I looked at every one of them, and every one of them relates to Stephen also, except with maybe the crying thing.
Yeah, I can get Stephen, but no, he's a lot more emotional now that he's with me for sure. But yeah.
Do you ever try to get him to cry? Because he's a lot of Aries in there. That's not a crier.
I mean, I know when we talk about kids and stuff, that hits home. But
he's got Mars and South Node in Pisces. Those are 2 major players. Mm-hmm. And so he's very, very, he's at odds with himself between Aries and Pisces, very oppositional. One's a warrior and the other's a lover. And his South Node, he understands you and love very well because his South Node is in Pisces. But anyway, we can analyze it. It's very fun, but we've got to get back to the nitty gritty here. You told me some really beautiful traits about your dad. Let's go to something that was not great about your dad. Okay. Mm-hmm. And that was the infidelity. And how old were you when you first made the connection that this was maybe dad's flaw? You remember something, Maria? In this process, in every process of self-analysis, we look at the moment we saw our parents as flawed. It's a pivotal moment in our life.
Yeah, I was in high school. My dad, we moved to the States because my dad cheated on my mom. My mom hasn't really ever gone into it, what was happening in Guatemala, but I don't know if it was 1 or 2, if it was flirting or actually having, sexual relations or that kind of thing. I never asked about Guatemala because I was very little.
How
But
old
I
were you
was,
when you first noticed that did mom protect his identity to you, his vision of him to you? She protected you.
yeah, definitely. I had phone calls with him. She took pictures of me when I was talking to him on the phone. He would come visit. He was very sorry. So I was 5 when that happened, but it didn't make the connection because my sister, my mom couldn't take care of, like I said, my mom couldn't take care of me and my sister. We were living with my grandma, and so my aunt took my sister for a year. Um, so that was strange for me, and I was just dealing with that and living with my grandma. I don't really remember much, but when I saw my dad, I saw the day that it happened. I saw my dad. Um,
The day
he was
that your mom confronted him?
the day that my dad cheated on my mom.
Really?
Hmm.
How old? 5 years old?
No, this was again when I was in high school. So it happened in Guatemala when I was 5. We left Guatemala. My mom said, "That's it. I'm separating. Moved to the States." My dad quickly followed and said, "No, I'm sorry. I want to be with you. I want to be with the family." And so he moved to the States also. Um, but then it happened. I don't know if it happened again between what I remember very clearly, but what kind of just broke the straw was when I was in high school. My dad was supposed to be home to let me in. I didn't have a key. The door was locked. My boyfriend um, was dropping me off. I told him I didn't have a key, so he waited with me, and we waited in the. My parents live in a townhouse, and so in the back of their townhouse is a playground. We were in the playground area, and I saw him walking from another house, just an area. There's no reason he had to be there, and he was walking towards the playground to the back of the house, and he had this look of being caught. And I asked him what he was doing, and he was like, "Oh, I was just looking at the roofing of another house." I'm like, okay. Didn't really think about it. And what I thought was strange was either that night or the next night, I was the one that picked up the phone call. It was the woman's husband. And he said to me, "Is your mom home?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, I need to talk to her about the roofing of our house." And that's when I was like, fuck. My
Really?
dad
You
cheated on
had
my
that
mom.
moment. I'm sorry.
I knew it. I knew instantly that my dad cheated on my mom.
With somebody in the same development.
Hmm.
Was that the end of your parents' relationship?
No,
He
it was the start
apologized.
of. It was the start of them fighting. They weren't fighters in the house. I mean, they would yell, and my mom had some issues with specifically Christmas, which is
Specifically with what?
Christmas.
Oh, with Christmas.
Yeah, she would buy us a bunch of gifts, and if we didn't like them, she would take offense and then start screaming and say, "You don't know how much thought I put into this. You guys are," me and my sister, um,
Ingrateful. Ungrateful.
ungrateful. I never got gifts when I was a kid. For some reason she brought up my grandma. It was
Were you
probably something
disappointed?
very,
Were you disappointed with the gifts?
yeah.
Tell me. This
They
is
weren't,
Christmas Christmas is huge for kids.
I mean, she tried very hard, but there was always one thing that I didn't love. There was just one thing that it wasn't my style. It was her trying to make it my style. I guess she was trying to connect, maybe. I don't know. It was just not,
Were
it
you,
didn't make sense.
do you remember how young you were the first times that there was a little difference of opinion about Christmas gifts? Was it very early on, or was it maybe more towards junior high, middle school?
Yeah, junior high, middle school.
That's
When I
when you,
started having my opinion.
yeah, I was about to say exactly. When you started to have your own vision of what you want to look like and independence, acknowledgement of your independence, that's usually in middle school. And so now she's thrusting her version of what she wants you to wear. I think we're largely talking about clothes now.
Yeah, clothes, shoes. She just never listens as far as like, I really want this. Like, I want this specific thing. And she would get me a more useful version of it. And then come up with like, well, you actually need this. And I spoke to the shoe salesman and it's good for all of these things. So you don't have to buy several shoes. You can just have this one shoe.
Mom's a Virgo, right?
Mom is a Capricorn.
Ooh. So it has to be very, very efficient and multi-purposeful, which is the exact antithesis to what a junior high kid wants to be: fashion ready and in concert with the energy around them. This is traumatic, I have to tell you. As a fashionista, I will tell you, it's traumatic.
Yes.
And Christmas for Christian kids like us is very traumatic.
Yeah.
I have a lot of trauma around Christmas. And the interesting thing is about this, it's almost, I don't know if it's contradictory or paradoxical, but the very people who could be traumatizing us are the very people who initially made Christmas so special for us at a young age, like 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 years old, up to 12, really.
Yeah.
And then later with your identity. And this is continuing because the same behavior is continuing, the same feelings is continuing, because as we've talked about, their management of you and your finances and career choices and projecting their desires onto you is kind of happening in a similar way. It's not exact, but it's eliciting some of the same feeling, which is you're not acknowledging my love, my passion, and how I can make myself beautiful and profound in the world, because you're projecting your version of it. And she's Capricorn, and that's just a small piece of the puzzle, but that is controlling the family. And so we acknowledge that, and we have to let her off the hook. But she's a child too, honey. We're all children. We're all dealing with a childlike pain body. We all have it until you take your last breath. Until you reach sainthood, we all have a childlike pain body, and mom's in it.
Yeah.
Man, that's a great description on Christmas. Okay, from you with your incredibly sensitive elements, describe to me the battle you must have felt between wanting to acknowledge your mom's effort, but also find your way through the disappointment because of your desire for your own identity and your own choices and your own, fashion sense at that age. What kind of battle was going on in between that? I had it too. Oh, it's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, she can tell. I mean, you can tell. You can read my face. She immediately said, well, if you don't like it, then I can return it, even though I just said thank you so much. But she still does it to this day.
You recognize her being her childlike pain body speaking, right?
Yeah, my mom had a very traumatic childhood. Her dad was killed at a very young age. So I can absolutely link it to an emotion she's not let go.
As my next question for you, you're very good to bring that up. And when Capricorn children get traumatized, they're really out of control, and they spend the rest of their life even more exponentially trying to achieve control. And then with a husband where she's not in control of his actions either. These are people, I believe, who do the best with the therapeutic process of surrender. And I told you, Maria, I mean, I don't know how much issue there is between you and your mom. My mother and I are like best of friends, but we are also best of enemies. Biggest enemies. Not so much her for me, but me for her. And I understood her chart. When I understood her chart, I started to love her as the child she was. Now, granted, my mother's a double Gemini, so she was very childish through our whole, like, I didn't believe she should have ever had children. And she said she should have never had children too. And the door is the ground we walk on. Don't get me wrong, but, wasn't ready at 21.
Right.
I say 21, how about 51 or 71? I have to say that under my mouth. That would be a week of fighting.
Right.
2 weeks, a month. But we recognize them. I like what you just did. You recognized your mother's trauma from her pain body. Tell me a little bit about that and how you've processed that, and what your how do you process that in your head about what she went through?
I try to find, I just try to find that pain and try to make sense of it for her, because she's not forthcoming with that. She doesn't immediately go to like, why did that happen? She's just very much no. She reacts with a no, a negative, always a negative first. And then she warms up to it. My mom and I love her. I could talk to her every day, all day. We're very connected. Until she gets frightened about some action or one of my choices, and then she'll say no. And I've recognized that that's just a fear that I don't have, and that I ask her to trust me, or I give her responses as like, oh, this will work because, or I've already lined this up. With my dad, I can say, Dad, I'm gonna start a business tomorrow. And he's like, awesome. Where? Tell me about it. What's going, what does it look like? That kind of thing. My mom would say, why? With what money?
Right. The pragmatist, the ultimate pragmatist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come back to, this is excellent. You'd be a great therapist. You have such acknowledgement of feelings, both good and bad, in others, that other people, it takes a long time to see the frailty in our parents. Most people just carry the anger and disappointment that they have towards them, but don't really look at the inner child that they're dealing with as pain, because they are just like us. All the trauma we had as children, they had it too. It's very apparent for me because my mom's version is very apparent, but yours is more difficult because she has a parental energy about her, which is, Capricorn. So come back now to that moment where you had that aha moment of realization about your dad, and you were in high school. And what happened after that?
I shut him out. But me being me, I went to my mom and I said, if you forgive him, I forgive him.
That was months later, weeks later, days later?
That was days, I don't know, it all blurs into one.
Right.
They were fighting, and they were fighting in the car, which is funny because the car faces the house. And so you could see, like, I was peering through the windows. Of course, my sister's watching TV telling me to stop. But I was just like, Mom and Dad are fighting. She's like, yeah. And I was like, well, they're screaming at each other. She's like, yeah. She saw a very different side of my parents that I've ever. She protected me, my sister.
Your sister is older? Yeah.
Yeah. 4 years older. 5 years older. 5 years older.
Wait, you have two sisters, right? No, one sister.
Just one.
Just the one.
Just one.
So
yeah.
4 to 5 years older than you, and your sister was trying to protect you from having to experience. This is a very challenging thing to see the flaw of a man like this, or a woman too. So you know. And but you knew, even though your sister was trying to protect you, even as a high school kid that had already had that moment, did you share that moment with your sister? Like, I understand what's going on here.
No, we never really talked about it. We just we kept on, we talked about it in private. You know, I was scared of bringing up arguments. I was scared of fights. I was scared of my parents divorcing. I was scared of a lot of stuff back then, so I didn't really say much. And then my sister was, you know, in, I guess at the time, and if I was in high school, she was in college.
Yeah. Was
Yeah,
she
so
there
she
at
was.
the, she wasn't even there at the time. If you were in high school, she was away in college, or?
She was away in Virginia Tech, but she was there. I remember seeing her. I remember having the conversation with her. She told me to like get back. I was the one that saw it. I was the one that experienced all of it. I must have told her. She'll probably remember, but she remembers things very skewed. So I don't ever want to ask.
No
You
one's
know?
suggesting that. We're just digging
Yeah.
a little right now because this is a big trauma. And of course, there's a consideration here, not just because you're sensitivo, but because, you know, anybody would be traumatized by this. And then you have a relationship with your, were you and Stephen married when he had his fall from grace? Okay.
No.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. The heart's married, the heart's married, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, so come back to describing, Maria, there's stuff under there that you're maybe not allowing yourself to remember, and that's okay. This is super traumatic. And on top of it, it's a second time, which means that potentially you're dealing with a greater possibility of divorce, which is every kid's fear of parents separating. You remember experiencing that fear after this?
Yeah, I definitely remember it. But then I also remember very clearly after coming back from college, my parents are not compatible on paper. To this day, they still, that's like, to this day, even when I went back to see my parents, they both talk about their differences over and over, and they talk about them privately with me. But always end with, well, I love your mom so much. I can't see myself without her. And the same, my mom says the same about my dad. But it comes up in every single conversation.
Where are they now?
In their, how do you mean?
Are they together now?
Mm-hmm. They're still together, but
Has
they're
their
very
relationship
much, I think they're trying for each other. But my dad always brings up, like, I don't know why your mom can't just go with the flow, and why I have to tell her where we're going. She can't just get in the car. And then he's talked about how his flaws, which I really appreciate. He talked about his flaws this past visit. He said, I know I'm very quiet. I don't like talking. Your mom doesn't like that. She wants someone that wants to talk, and I'm not a talker. And so she escapes into her phone, and she's constantly on her phone, which drives my dad nuts. It's like, instead of your phone, why don't you go do something? He's very much a learner. So he's like on the computer trying to figure out photography, figuring out Photoshop, learning the next best, that kind of, like, always teaching himself. And that's where I got that from. But my mom is very stuck.
So
So
Maria,
she,
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
mm-mm.
I want to play a little game. It's a little exercise, not really a game, but if you could speak with impunity, and your biggest impunity would be for yourself, not to condemn yourself with judgment or guilt. if you could speak from the heart with, I'm just a mirror for you, and there's no parents around, there's no Stephen around, there's no anything around, right? No one's in earshot. What would you say about this relationship? What would you say about your mother's qualities and your father's qualities? What works, what doesn't work, what is irritating to you, what is sad to you, every aspect of it. Where would you go with that? Tell me. How about start with your mother? I mean, I know you adore her and you guys are best buds. I am with mine too. But I mean,
Yeah.
if I had this question posed to me, I would not be able to stop. As much as I love her.
Yeah, I think she limits herself. I think she does. She's so scared of chance, or I don't know what she's scared of, but she just doesn't take those adventures. So she's not having fun, which is super frustrating to me and my dad, because we want to just do anything and she has to think it out, and then she says no, or she comes up with an excuse, and that's the heart of their the what's going wrong with the relationship. So when I was in college, I came back and I said, well, maybe you guys need a divorce. I just said it. I was like,
That was
like
a few years late. A few years later, you said that, and they both heard you.
Yeah. In college, I said that.
Isn't it interesting? Do you view their staying together as fearful on both or either of their parts?
Yes.
Fear of being alone, fear of being detached from the unit that he loves and she loves.
Yeah, I think he's afraid of losing me and my sister, and she's afraid of losing a husband. She has me and my sister, and I think my dad is afraid of losing us just because we were so angry about what he did, that he can see how quickly we can turn on him. So he's afraid that that's going to happen again.
Do you turn on him sometimes? Or had you turned on him?
Oh yeah.
How?
At the start of my relationship with Stephen, I turned on him. And I didn't understand his negativity towards Stephen, or why he was being protective, or why he was being mean. And I didn't understand why Stephen was being, to this day, I still don't know what really happened between them, but it got intense.
Do you think there's a possibility that your father projected his own dislikes about himself onto Stephen?
Absolutely. He probably saw himself in Stephen, and saw that.
Why does any father have any problem with their daughter's boyfriend or boyfriend's or daughter's mate? This is the ultimate reason. They hate the self-hatred that all men feel towards themselves. Remember something, sweetie. A little bit of a history lesson here, okay, real quick. For 10 million years, since the time we went from being quadrupeds up to bipeds, and I don't mean to be harsh about this, so I'm going to use and now that we're recording all our sessions, I have to be a little bit more delicate. But for 10 to 12 million years, so the distance that you have between where you are in Williamsburg compared to where your face is to the computer screen, those two differences, one is the difference. Here's the analogy. For the difference from where you are in Kingston to Williamsburg represents 10 to 12 million years of continuous behavior by males trying to go to water holes and inseminate anybody to make sure that the species doesn't die out. That distance is represented by you to Williamsburg right now. The time that we have been cultivated into better behavior, and women have the need to procreate also, make sure the species doesn't die out also, but it's a little more polished and it's a little bit more maternal with safety and survival associated with it. So there is a genetic component of programming here. Now, the distance of time comparatively that we have been trying to put these monkeys called men, us apes in suits, and say domesticate yourself, is about the distance from your face to the computer screen, about 2,000 years. Okay, 3,000, maybe 4,000 at the most. So that is a dramatic difference. But we all carry a genetic and an emotional self-hatred of ourselves for being the way we are genetically programmed to be. As in touch with my feelings as I am, and as a heterosexual male, I will tell you that all men, if they're not in touch with it, have it, and it projects beastly onto other men, and especially the other man that's with our offspring. I'm using myself as an example. So in our process of being self-aware of our feelings, we have to let our moms off the hook. We got to let our dads off the hook too. Have you ever let your dad off the hook? And don't talk to me consciously, I forgave him. No. Let's go look into the cells, deep into your cells, because look at you, who you are. You're a woman who's dealt with this problem with your mate. I've dealt with it with females. I've been on both sides of it, both sides of infidelity.
I definitely let my dad off the hook. I haven't let Steven off the hook, maybe because I mentioned to him how it hurt me. I said
Did
it.
you ever have that conversation with him about was there a need? Maybe there hasn't been a need because we were talking about it during the pandemic, but the need to know where he is and why certain things are important, even though I trust you implicitly, we're still working through my own old fears.
We haven't recently, no.
But maybe there hasn't been the need for it, but there will be a need for it again. And maybe, without giving too much away, it might be something that Stephen and I touch on when we're by ourselves, about honoring who our mate is. I love couples counseling because it's just my love. I'm Pisces. We just want to have cohesion. That's my secret love. So I talk to a lot of men and women about acknowledging their partner's love language. But we also have to acknowledge each other's fight language. And within the fight language is our fear language, our fear expression. He knows it. He might need a little bit of a reminder. He might need, with as much powerful Aries and Aquarius and Leo that he has, he doesn't live and breathe it. He doesn't live and breathe it, but he has the ability to, because I see Cancer, Pisces, South Node in Cancer, second house, good stuff for him to understand it. I don't think you'll ever get him to embrace it and embody it like you do. That's asking too much. We don't need that. Okay, I interrupt you. You have not let Stephen off the hook yet.
No, and I mean that's definitely affecting our sex life.
Tell me how. Tell me how, because you feel inhibited.
I just feel like I resist it.
What happens to a woman who's in love with a man and physically attracted to a man who has betrayed her? What happens to a woman's heart and head after that?
Probably shuts down. I've shut down.
And the body shuts down too.
I mean, I'm trying because we're trying to have a baby. But
do you feel yourself a little forced when you get to that intimate place with him, that you're doing this for baby rather than a sharing of love?
At the beginning, and then I forget, and then I remember that I love him.
Is it fun and enjoyable and loving with him? I mean, he's very good looking, and he's got a lot of appeal. I mean, you're gorgeous and sexy. I mean, so is there a little bit of a mental gymnastics that's taking place at that time sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. I don't know why I get like, I'm immediately like, no, and then he gets offended and he's like, it's always me initiating. And I'm trying. And sometimes I do feel like I want to, but I don't approach it anymore. We had a really great sex life before he cheated on me, and then something happened a few months before he cheated, and he said I was distant and that I wasn't. And that I wasn't like satisfying his urges or something. He said like that, and then he just cheated on me. And I must have just known that something was happening.
This is very challenging because it snowballs out of control, because the very thing that is blamed for the cheating is the very thing that you could rectify it with. You can't rectify it because the only thing rectifiable is a man to step away from his body and get into the heart of the woman who's going through what she's going through. It's almost impossible to ask that of 4 billion men on the planet. It's really hard, but it has to happen. I understand.
He definitely. So I met this woman actually, and the first time I saw them, she came to a party that he was hosting or we were hosting, and
Is this the woman he cheated on you with?
mm-hmm.
Tell
He
me.
invited her to the party, and he said, "Hey there, you," or "Come here, you," and hugged her. And it felt very strange. And that comes out, like, found out that that night he was making out with her, I don't know, somewhere in the house. And that it then evolved into several months of them
Having
seeing
an
each
affair.
other. Mm-hmm. But he uses those words, "Come here, you," with me. And I've told him that's triggering. But he's like, "These are my words. This is what I say. I don't think about that when I'm saying that to you." But it's just like, it feels like it happened yesterday.
There's a site called Hope Now that talks about, I don't like making anybody feel responsible, but it is the responsibility of the person in Stephen's case. And I was in Stephen's case. I was in Stephen's shoes also, to go the extra mile, as they say, because of those triggers. Does he ever acknowledge the need for that? Does he vacillate? Does he?
He hears me, but he also gets frustrated because he's like, "I promise you never again. I would never cheat on you when we're married." But it's, I get it, but it's also like, I've heard those promises before in my childhood, and with Stephen, and it's just not, I don't believe it. So.
How long's it been, Maria?
Oh gosh, it's been forever.
Doesn't matter, babe. You're hanging on to stuff. Look, plenty of parents get divorced, but not all of them get divorced because one of them was cheating. Sometimes yes, but a lot of times no. I'm going to tell you, this is traumatic. What you witnessed was traumatic. It's traumatic for anybody, but especially for you. And you have cancer, and your Cancerian and Pisces energy is.
With Stephen, it happened in 2012, but it was, it must have been happening before that. And he lied to me. That it's just like this, I had to investigate. So it's like not this, like, it also brought out a lot of, like, I have to ask him certain questions. I had to look through his cell phone records. I put all the pieces together and then said, you've done this, own up to it. And he still lied about it. And then I got witnesses, and I made a case, and then I said, "We're done." And that's when he fessed up to it. So.
And how did he respond after that? He responded with, "I love you. I don't want to lose you."
He's responded with crying and saying, "I'm so sorry," and he broke down. The day that he actually admitted to it, he brought up him being sick, which I thought was very strange.
Mm.
He said, I think I have MS, which I just, for me, I was like, you're not going to get my sympathy.
You have to excuse me for 1 second. We're over the hour and I got somebody at the door.
Yeah,
Just one
course.
moment, babe. No worries. I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I have a client here, and this is all very, very important stuff. You're bringing up major childhood traumas through your present relationship. Those are always our hardest lessons. From an astrological standpoint, we look and see what astrologically is what is showing astrologically for our own personal correction. I love that you have Saturn in Libra, because Saturn in Libra is probably, our goal is to not detach from it. I witness your acknowledgement of traumas that have taken place and the way you deal with them. However, Saturn in Libra is the first one to sweep this under the rug. It's part of their misuses. Mama, this is asthma waiting to happen.
Yeah.
This is dust and wheat being swept under, and under means inside, is an analogy for inside.
Mm-hmm.
I feel very strongly about your sensitivity, but I've got to be very strong about this and say it's time to get this shit out, and out big time. There may be a time, there may be a time to have a little coupley thing with you and Steven about some of these things. But I think first thing is to actually find out where he is and give him the safety of being able to express a little bit more freely. I'm good at this. Because I see some stuff in him that not so much sweeps under, but glosses over quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And because of his tangential nature, he could go in many different directions and sidestep this. He, however, does have a nice quality of coming full circle like I do, which I like about him. It's a usable tool.
Yeah.
In not evading and avoiding, not going into avoidance.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's avoiding, he would ever deliberately avoid. He does seem like he would inadvertently avoid by going too fast. And that's where I will make sure I have not had coffee or caffeine. But Maria, my love, we got to talk about these things. And we've opened up a little bit of a door here. Right at this door, you're going to give him your session next week. So what we could do is, I mean, I hate to be so trite about things and say, I'd like to see the overlaps of trauma from childhood versus the present fear. It's trite, but honey, work is trite.
Right.
I want you to be able to have a beautiful baby with this person and not live in a state of fear when the pandemic's over that he's out till 2, or, you know, like there's a lot to work on here. Your relationship with your sister is interesting also. So I'm just going to make a couple little notes for your next visit that I would like to pick open. And it has to do with the overlap of what happened as from childhood. I know it's trite, but there's an overlap of feelings. And I do believe there was a sweeping under the rug of some things with your father. You had no choice. You have to cope. And you're also a teenager, and teenagers are not presented with these tools of cope. They're presented with the teenage tools of coping, which is to sweep it under and move forward and not deal.
Yeah.
I don't want to have this feeling of worry because it's interfering. It can interfere with, and also there's some issues with you guys intimacy wise too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to address that because I know that if I was going, he would never bring it up. But if I were, if I were to pinpoint where we're having issues, it's that.
Yeah, I have to establish trust with him, Maria, so that we can talk about how he can adhere himself better to your needs. That I can't dive into that. I've got to have some rapport with him. So I'm glad we'll have a time with him. All right, this is good. This is very deep and very good. Next week on Wednesday, today's Thursday, not Wednesday. Oh, okay. Do you think he could do, I have Wednesday or Thursday at 6:30 or 6. Not so much 6 on Wednesday, but I have Wednesday or Thursday at 6:15 or 6:30.
Yeah, Thursday at 6:15 seems to be a good. He's
Do you
gotten
think
through
he's
most of the day.
Is he okay at 6:15?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sweetheart, will you set up the computer and then walk away and leave the house? How have you thought about this?
Yeah, I have. I'll leave.
Can you do an errand to like Whole Foods for coconut yogurt?
Yes. We don't have a Whole Foods, but I definitely can run an errand, make myself scarce. I do appreciate the privacy of this, and I want to give him that space as well.
Yeah, I have to prepare for this. All right. Always a joy. I will see you. Maybe I won't. Well, will you set it up and then leave, or will you let him just do it? Because I don't know that I have Steven's number or anything.
I can just set it up for him and then go. He'll be on. You won't see me.
Oh, I don't care about that. I love you.
Same.
All right, my darling.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Before we leave, let's go ahead. Let me put him in as Maria's Stephen. I have another Stephen. 2 weeks. So another week from today, I'm putting you in around 6:30 the following week because I know I'm probably going to see you. We have to talk.
Yes, perfect.
So put both of those dates in. Thursday, 6:15, 6:30, and then the same thing the following week.
Okay, sounds good.
Ciao, honey. Bye, babe.
Bye.
Adele.